mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and redeemer. Amen. So the past day and a half, all day Friday and a good portion of Saturday, was our diocesan convention, where the parishes in the Diocese of Newark, about 104 of them, send their parish leaders and representatives to gather together at the Hilton Persephone, talk about what has happened in the past year, have a sense of where we are at this point, and have a lot of discussion about where we'd like to go as a diocese. Representing St. Luke's was our rector John Manel, Martha Thalheimer, Karen Thompson, the Reverend Tom Laws, Bert Jones, Lou Balsamo, and myself. Well, knowing that I would be at the Hilton Persephone for 2 days and giving the sermon today, I decided to print out what was a version of my sermon back on Thursday night and take it with me, thinking that I'd have time in the course of the 2 days to look at it, pray over it, and work with it. Well, early on Friday morning, this document went missing. Somewhere in the craziness of workshops and Eucharists and other events at the Diocesan Convention, I didn't have my notes. Was that a sign from God? Was God telling me to throw it out and start all over again? I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Well, needless to say, last night I got home after the Diocesan Convention had ended and spent some time with a little bit of what I had started and moved into where I am today. But what it really caught my attention is that I tend to start my sermons with sort of a time stamp. Now, I don't know if I do that for the listeners or if truthfully I do it for myself, but today's time stamp might be the fourth Sunday after Epiphany, certainly, but also Super Bowl Sunday, Black History Month, and believe it or not, 2.5 weeks from the season of Lent. So somehow I would like to this morning evolve together with some football theme, a little bit about Mark's gospel, and some amazing things going on here at St. Luke's. But I really want to start this sermon with 4 words. And they're 4 words that I think a lot of sermons should start with. And that is, Kathy DeWalt is awesome. Now, for those of you that may know Kathy is our Director of Family and Youth Ministries here at St. Luke's. If you have kids that have been involved in any program that has had Kathy's hands on it, you know how energetic, how creative, and how passionate Kathy is. Well, last Sunday, a week ago from today, was the junior youth group, the middle school students' youth group, had a scheduled meeting. 2 weeks prior, Kathy told me that, "Oh, Jerry, I'm not going to be able to be there for the youth group event." Well, after I passed out and cried and kicked and screamed, Kathy said, "Don't worry, Liz Dalton will happily co-facilitate with you," and that Kathy would spend time planning it ahead of time. Well, our theme was to be football. It was a week before Super Bowl, and we had all sorts of winter sports and football things planned. It was really great watching middle school kids trying to pick up mini marshmallows with chopsticks. It was really, really fun. But one of the activities we did was called Football Field of Faith. And each participant was given a drawing of a football field. They were asked 2 questions. The first question was, where do you put yourself on this football field? Well, oddly enough, none of the youth were football followers, except perhaps one, and none of them were Seahawks or Patriot fans. But nonetheless, we proceeded with the activity. After the middle school students located themselves within the football field, the next question was, where is God? In reference to where you put yourself on the field, where is God? Well, I was most amazed of the responses of these middle school students. One student said, "God is sitting in the chair right next to me." Another one said, "God is out in the parking lot, nowhere near me." Another one, which really resonated with me, was God is the person sitting directly behind me and kicking my chair. God as a person kicking my chair, that one I relate to. But what it really showed to me was the diversity of theologies. And if we ask ourselves these questions, it would be the same thing, where we all have different beliefs and different understandings. Now that's not all. Kathy, of course, in her creativity said, you can debrief after this exercise and ask the students, so in an athletic event, is God the coach? Is God the referee? Might God be the cheerleader? Or maybe the person selling the hot dogs? Well, that led into a further amazing discussion about people's belief in God and really helped me see how we all believe differently. But yet, we're all one family and one community of believers. It just reinforces what I've learned during my seminary time, that my belief, my way, is but one way, and it is certainly not the only way. This past week in the Church of England, the first female bishop was consecrated. And it took place at a cathedral overseen by the Archbishop of York. And Bert Jones actually sent me a link to this because of the adult forum that we hosted last week on the Anglican Communion. It was an article about the lead up to this service, as well as a video clip that you could click on and watch a part of the service. The portion that was shown on this website was just as the woman who was going to become a bishop, her name is Libby, was to be questioned, and then the congregation asked that infamous question that's often asked at ordinations and sometimes weddings, is there any reason we should not proceed with making Libby into a bishop? So there was one lone dissenter who came forward, and he shared some information as to why he felt Libby should not become a bishop. His information shared that, well, the Bible doesn't say that women can be bishops. What was amazing about this video was the Archbishop of York's response. He said nothing. He acknowledged the dissenter's comment and proceeded to move on in the service and focus on the transformation that was about to happen. To me, that's exactly what Jesus did in today's gospel. Jesus did not focus on the evil spirit. With authority, Jesus handled the situation and focused on the transformation of this individual that was in front of him. And we don't know the details of this person. We don't know if they had some type of illness or really anything about the person. What the gospel writer focuses on is healing. And as we know, that is a big portion of Jesus' ministry. In the Gospel of Mark, there are 18 miracles. This is the first one we hear about. 13 of those 18 miracles involve healing. Well, that says something about Jesus' ministry. Makes me think of the blizzard this past week, or the lack of blizzard. Do we choose to focus on the fact that some of us lost a day of work or weren't able to do the things we had hoped to do? Or do we focus on the time that we might have found and the things that we got done that were unplanned and unscheduled? It's very much what the keynote speaker at convention was trying to convey this year. The theme of convention is, where do you see God? Or what is God up to, was the question being asked. The keynote speaker basically focused on trying not to have the church look at declining attendance and challenging real estate, but rather to focus on where God is in our midst. The stress was really put on focusing on that transformation, that by looking at where God is, we can see growth. In today's gospel, that's exactly what we hear. Jesus focused on the transformation of this individual, and we too should mirror that behavior. Now, one of the ways we do that is share stories. And one of the things I love about St. Luke's is we share lots of different stories from lots of different members within the community. This month, we kick off our celebration of Black History Month with lots of activities around that. I encourage you to take a part of that. Join in the adult forum today about the Tuskegee Airmen. Come hear the Church of the Incarnation Choir next week, as well as the mayor of Montclair. Or on the 15th, come here to celebrate the preacher as the Canon Greg Jacobs from here in our diocese. and he'll be leading an adult forum on the African American story within the Episcopal Church. By hearing these stories and learning about differences, we find similarities, but we also come to experience growth. It's really what we're trying to accomplish with our Serving Christ dinners, bringing together 6 to 8 people to share a meal and really find out things that you would not have found otherwise. The group that I'm in, we had our dinner, and boy, did we share a lot of information at our dinner and learn things about each other that we would never have found out about strictly on a Sunday morning. This question of where is God, you're going to be hearing a lot about that through our Lenten time. The hope is that we'll really challenge each other to answer that question in a way that brings growth. Our answer, again, will be different theologies, different beliefs, and different understandings of what God is, just like the middle school students. I came across a Eucharistic prayer this week that I wanted to share that I think really says this message, that we all believe differently, and yet we are all one family. The prayer goes something like this. So come to this table those who have much faith, and those who would like to have more, those who have been here often, and those who have not been here for a long time, those who have tried to follow Jesus, and those who might find it difficult to do so. Come and take your place at God's table. It is Christ who invites us to meet him there. I think this really speaks to the Episcopal Church's tagline, all are welcome. That has been the tagline for the Episcopal Church for many years, and we live that well here at St. Luke's. But I think there's more to it. We need to do more. It's the asking of questions of where do we see God, and then sharing that story. So, I ask you, where do you see God? It is our responsibility to answer that question, and in so doing, reinforcing that God is alive, and God is active and present in our lives. Our work, our task, our responsibility is to see where God is in our lives, and to share those stories. And in so doing, we will each be transformed. May it be so. Amen.